Another measure of central tendency we're going to look at is something called a weighted mean. So we've looked at the arithmetic mean, which is adding them up, dividing by how many we have. But weighted mean actually doesn't compute exactly the same because you are giving a little bit more weight to things that aren't equally represented. So for example, if we need to find the mean of a data set where not all the values are equally represented, we compute a weighted mean. So it's like a fraction, but it's a little bit different. So the weighted mean is the sum of the product of the value and the frequency or the weight divided by the number of values or sum of the weightings. So it's a little bit different. Let's do a couple examples of weighted mean to see how we actually do that computation. So here's our example considering grades. So when you're calculating a grade average, you should use a weighted mean because not everything's worth the same, right? Tests might be a little bit weighted more than quizzes, more than assignments, etc. So here's our context. So assume you have 75% on assignment worth 20% of your grade. So we got 75% on an assignment worth 20% of your grade. And then we got 60% on a test worth 20% of our grade. And then we got 80% on quizzes worth 15% of our grade. And we got 50% on a presentation worth 15% of our grade. So we know that in a weighted situation for graded, if we're dealing with percentages components, then I'm going to divide each of these by 100 and look at the decimal representation. So it's 20%, which is really 0.20 as a weighted value. 20%, 0.20 as a weighted value, 15%, 0.15, and 15%, 0.15. So now we actually want to look at the product. So remember, if we look at our formula, it's the sum of the product of the value and the frequency slash weight. So product means multiply. So it's always going to be multiplication that we're dealing with. So 75 times 0.20 is going to give me a weighted component of 15. So what that really means is that I got 75%. The whole thing was worth 20, so I got about 15 out of that 20 towards my grade. The test component, so 60 times 0.20, I get 12. So 12 out of that 20% is what I've gained. Quizzes, 15% of my grade, so I got 80%, so 12. And then finally, 15%, I'm going to get half of that, so 7.5 on that value. So what we want to do is we want to sum up our products. So we've done our multiplication, we're going to sum up our products, and I end up getting 46.5. And that's out of what? So you have a couple options. You can either add up your percentages to get that is equivalent to 70%, or you can add up your decimals to get that that's equivalent to 0.70%. So whichever way you do it, you can do it either way. Notice that this one would give you a percentage that you have to multiply by 100, whereas this one will actually just give you your value for your grade. So our weighted mean is the sum of products over the total weight. So in this case, we're going to take our 46.5 divided by, and again, it doesn't matter which one you use as long as you recognize they have to put it in percentage form. So if you divide by your 70%, you are going to have to multiply that by 100. Then you end up getting as a percentage or current percentage in your course as 66.4%.